And if she made that decision based off of the fact that they can't speak the same language and was grasping at straws to try and keep herself relevant, that's really sad. Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel and to this series where I dissect TLC's Love in Translation, a multicultural dating show where no one speaks the same language yet everyone hopes to fall in love. I'm pretty sure this video is going to be the longest analysis I've done so far because, y'all, the drama. It felt like I was watching a bomb go off in slow motion, and then taking my notes felt like I was picking up the cultural shrapnel that fell all around and trying to piece it back together. It's possible I geeked out a little too much and I found things where there aren't any, but that's fine. You can let me know what your opinion is in the comments. At the end of last week's episode, Dylan's secret sexual encounter with Jam became common house knowledge. Once Giselle exposes her, Jam is very forthcoming about what happened and how.
Nos besamos, tomamos alcohol, fuimos arriba a hablar, nos besamos más y pasó.
But it feels like it's too little too late, and even though she's being honest, there's this cloud of discomfort over the women who still like Dylan. Dulay is deeply affected by the news. She has been locked into her connection with him since day one when they had their first date.
Dass ich Dylans Favoritin bin, weil mir oft Symbole, Zeichen gegeben hat, heimlich.
In a previous episode, she said that she comes from a long line of shamans. We get to see some of her work in the background where she is creating enchantments to try and get Dylan to fall in love with her. I don't believe in these things, but taking into consideration the effort Dulay was putting in, it makes sense that she felt so strongly when she found out the news. I'm kind of fearing for Dylan's life.
Dylan ist für mich tot.
Once night falls, Dylan and Juliana, Trip and Lady, and Khalil and Imani come back from their dates to find the house pin drop quiet.
I'm very worried that all of the girls know what happened between me and Yam last night.
Shortly after, though, all of the women come downstairs and they put on the fakest welcome that I have ever seen. They make this big show of hugging each other and kissing each other like they're long-lost BFFs. And then I realized that they were doing all of this to get close enough to each other to whisper in each other's ears what Dylan had done.
Dylan, Sex mit Yam. Gestern.
Very, very petty, and I approve.
I cannot believe what they just told me.
Now remember, Juliana had no idea that Dylan had slept with Jam right before their date. She even spent a good part of her date feeling badly and telling Dylan that she thought he should have invited Yam instead of her. So when she becomes aware of Dylan's transgression, she's very obviously unhappy.
I feel stupid because Dylan let me keep talking about how bad I felt for Yam.
What's more than that, I think she might even feel shamed. Objectively, Dylan's decision to proceed with his date with Juliana after sleeping with Jam was horrible. But when we consider the context of embarrassment and honor and shame across other cultures, it looks even worse. Juliana is from Bolivia and Jam is from Mexico. In Latin American cultures, honor is like the cornerstone of social standing. When someone's honor is compromised, it can lead to significant consequences, both socially and emotionally. In some cases, you go out of your way to avoid embarrassing people or putting them in awkward positions, and all of that is relevant in these women's cultures. During the previous day's kissing activity, Jam expressed her interest in Dylan. They had shared what she felt like was a mutual, intimate connection, and I'm sorry for the face, I just don't buy it. But she fully expected for Dylan to pick her for the date after they had both chosen each other mutually for their kisses. Dylan shared in the last episode that Jam was near hysterical when she found out that he had chosen Juliana instead of her for the date. While her reaction might seem exaggerated, it's also possible that her self-worth was deeply wounded. She might feel embarrassed that she put herself out there so boldly that she finally got his attention only to be rejected. During her date with Dylan, Juliana mentions a few times how horribly she felt for Jam after witnessing her breakdown. In my opinion, a typical American on this same date in this same scenario would not have had a similar reaction. We're more individualistic in the way that we think. One of us probably would have been like, okay, well, too bad, so sad. Jam's an adult. She can grow up. I'm just going to focus on the connection that I have with Dylan and the fact that he chose me. But she doesn't do that. And I think part of that reason is because culturally, Latinos see themselves as a collective where one person's actions affects the others. I think Juliana's empathy highlights a shared understanding of honor and shame. While nothing I'm saying is absolute, that information can help us realize how mortifying it must feel for Juliana to receive the news that Dylan slept with Jam right before their date. Her own sense of honor could be affected by the fact that she is now associated with this situation.
Me siento una payasa.
Actually, we know that's the case because she goes looking for Jam once she finds out. Jam is upstairs in her room, curled up with Jennifer, the little witch, and she's avoiding the people downstairs, which speaks even further to the expectation to be ostracized once you experience vergüenza or shame. Vergüenza is a Spanish word that roughly translates to shame or embarrassment. However, it carries a deeper cultural significance in Latin American countries. It's more than just feeling embarrassed. It's a profound sense of social and emotional disgrace that can have significant consequences. In the context of the show, Jam's experience of vergüenza after being rejected by Dylan, then having their secret encounter aired out in front of the entire house, is a powerful example of how this emotion can impact individuals. I could go down a rabbit hole on this for days, y'all, but before it's too late, I'm reeling it back in. Back to Juliana. She goes up to Jam's room and she tells her off.
Felicidades, sos el número uno en actriz, en hipócrita.
Not so much for sleeping with Dylan, but for making a fool out of her. Dylan's not getting off scot-free. None of the women will speak to him, including Tulay.
Can we talk?
Nein.
I appreciate that he doesn't make excuses for himself and doesn't try and turn it into a pity party, but it is kind of uncomfortable to watch him walk behind Tulay throughout the house or just walk around the house looking like Mr. Lonely. He's not the only one that's uncomfortable though.
After this drama with Dylan, I prefer to cede my place to the girls who are in love with the guys.
Imani has finally decided to leave the house, as has Asia.
I'm not the type of girl who chases guys. I think American guys are completely immature.
Imani I saw coming, but Asia, I'm glad that she left. I shared my thoughts on how she was being ignored by the men throughout the show in a previous video, so if you want to see my theories on that, feel free to check that out. That same night, we get to see Khalil and Heidi in Khalil's room having another private conversation. It seems like after his disastrous date with Imani, he's feeling this renewed sense of connection. So he decides he's going to ask her to sleep in his room, sharing a bed, cuddling, and nothing else.
私、ジャパンからここにセックスのために来たんじゃない。
Japan is known for having a very reserved culture. There's a higher emphasis on indirect communication, subtlety, and delaying physical intimacy in a relationship. American culture is the complete opposite. The good thing is Khalil is highly aware of this gap, and he reassures Heidi that sex is not his motive.
The physical stuff, it can wait. I feel that strongly about her.
Heidi eventually concedes, and they spend a wholesome night together, leaving enough room between the two of them for the Holy Spirit. However, they both wake up and they express disappointment in the fact that their connection didn't grow while they were sleeping.
I don't think we got closer, so I'm a little worried.
The night definitely didn't progress that way.
Maybe it feels silly, but you have to remember these two people are coming at this situation with very different cultural expectations. Khalil was hoping to cuddle Heidi. At the same time, he wants to be respectful, so he doesn't touch her unless she touches him, but Heidi has no intention of touching him. Sleeping in a bed with someone that she is not exclusively dating is weird to her.
If this is what American people do, I will try it out.
There's an awkwardness about the way that they dance around each other in the morning getting ready. Neither one of them knows exactly what to do or how to express themselves, and so they say nothing, which ends up being a huge problem later on in the episode. In a different part of the house, Jam has yet again isolated herself, and she's sitting on a couch with Jennifer talking about how much she misses Dylan.
Estar así como si tú fueras
During that same conversation, Jam divulges that she has an 8-year-old son.
Yo sí quiero, pero no sé cómo competir con ellas. No hay manera porque yo tengo 29 años y un hijo.
Is that why she did this? I'm not shaming her in the least, but I am wondering, could it be that Jam slept with Dylan as a way to stand out in front of the other women and feel more secure in her connection with him?
Quisiera poder hablar el mismo idioma. Es tan difícil.
And if she made that decision based off of the fact that they can't speak the same language and was grasping at straws to try and keep herself relevant, that's really sad. I'm not pushing a narrative. This is just food for thought. I would love to know what your opinions are in the comments. That same morning, Sangeeta comes back to the house to announce to the singles that they have 2 days left before eliminations take place. The guys are going to have to cut down their options to just 2 women each so that they can decide who they would like to establish a closer connection with. As a last hurrah to the cast, Sangeeta then shares that the show is going to send them all on a group date.
You guys are going out dancing! Have an incredible time.
I don't know if it's the cynic in me or just common sense, but I did not think that this was going to go well, and unfortunately I was right. So much happened this evening that I really need to focus on people in groups so that I can make sure that this is easy to follow. Starting with Trip and Heidi because they are the simplest. Their body language throughout the house and up to this point pretty much solidifies the fact that they are only interested in each other. So it's no surprise to anyone when they go out to dance, they are only sitting with each other, they only have eyes for each other, they're only dancing with each other. Dylan spends the night effectively in the doghouse. The women still aren't speaking to him until they get some liquor in their system. Sara is the first to make a move, but when she is dancing with Dylan, Tulay comes from out of nowhere and starts yelling at the two of them in Italian. Dylan then abandons Sara on the dance floor to chase after Tulay and try and talk to her. But the surprise of the night, y'all, was definitely the dynamic between Heidi and Jennifer.
Heidi going after Khalil is pissing me off.
In previous episodes, Jennifer made it very clear that she views this show as a competition. She felt snubbed by Khalil turning his attention off of her and onto Heidi. And since then, she's been pulling out all the stops to try and win him back. Both of the women have occasionally commented on how uncomfortable the other makes them feel, but neither of them are actually shown acknowledging each other, even though they have the translators to communicate. Jennifer does also know that Heidi spent the previous night in Khalil's bed. She decides to take matters into her own hands. She pulls Khalil to the dance floor. She busts out some samba moves. That was not a samba move. And Khalil is 100,000% into it.
The chemistry between me and Jennifer on the dance floor is like, I just never imagined.
Heidi does not handle the situation well. She succumbs to the pressure and begins to drink.
I don't like how awkward I am. I will drink a lot so as not to feel shy.
Drinking the discomfort away is a very obvious attempt to cope, but I wonder if there's also a cultural piece at play here. We've talked about how Japanese culture is largely conflict avoidant and how Heidi isn't used to pursuing men. Pair that with her direct competition being somebody from Brazil, where sexuality, overtly flirting, and provocative dancing are much more widely accepted. Then add on top of that the fact that she feels silenced, not just because she can't communicate directly with people, but because in Japanese culture, you keep your emotions inside of yourself. It's a recipe for disaster, and I am fully expecting everything to go off the rails in the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, consider subscribing or commenting, or just watching another one if this kind of content is of interest to you. I'd love to know what you think about my assessment of the situations, or even what your answers to some of those pop-up questions would be. As we always say on our channel, with God, all things are possible, and I will see you next Wednesday.